Okay, so this is the course module for this semester. Let me go and I'll go into the screen where you can, this is what you see. So what you do is you go into lectures and course material, you click on that, and there's the syllabus, there's the intro podcast that I just recorded, and this is the week one module. And this has, again, this has the material that I want you to learn this week. And this has the material that you'll be tested on beginning next Tuesday. I'll deploy the quiz one next Tuesday. And you'll have, I think, 72 hours to take it. Remember, you're always quizzed on the previous week's material. Okay, so here's the week one module. This is week one. I'm going to open it. And this is the module orientation that I'm recording now. So you'll open that and you'll get this information. I guess you had to open it to get to where you are now. And let's move on to the material now. Pre-European Texas and the Vaca podcast, and click on that. And you'll see what you often see this semester. You'll see a podcast stream that I've recorded. Let me pause it. And how many? It's 6 podcasts. It's about 18, it's about an hour's worth, maybe a little bit less of podcast, where I discuss pre-European, pre-Spanish indigenous people in Texas. Now, note that each of the podcasts is about 10 minutes long. So you don't have to listen to the whole stream all at one time. This is, I think, one of the real advantages of online learning, that you can stop, you can go back. Students have told me that they listen to my lectures at double speed, which is fine. I don't really care. I just want you to get the information. So the first thing you see is what you'll often see this semester. You'll see a podcast stream, which is the course lecture. Let me go back to content now. And then there's other information. You're studying Cabeza de Vaca, the Spanish explorer who washed ashore in Texas in the 1520s. So I'm going to click on that. Here's just a little movie on Cabeza de Vaca. It's only 6 minutes. It gives you information on who this amazing person is, a little bit more background on him. And we're starting here because pre-Cabeza de Vaca, there's almost no written history of Texas. The indigenous groups here didn't really create a historical record. They were mostly nomadic, except for the Caddoan Indians. They moved around over the course of the year for better hunting. So we don't have any written records before Cabeza de Vaca, and he's significant because his story is so amazing, but also he's the first person to leave a written record of Texas. And as historians, we're really dependent on the written record. The next thing that I want you to watch is Frank de la Teja. He's a professor, a very distinguished professor of Texas history at Texas State. And they're very, very quick, like 5-6 minute films of him talking about de Vaca and the significance of de Vaca. So I want you to listen to him and his take on de Vaca, because I think it's very interesting and I think it's very worthwhile. Let's go back now. Okay, let's go back into week one module. Here's a map of the de Vaca journey, which you may want to look at first. It just gives you a sense of the space in terms of where de Vaca was. Maps really are helpful in this course. So I would go ahead and take a look at the map. This story starts in Cuba and it ends up in Mexico City via the Baja California. It's an incredible story. So go ahead and take a look at the map. And then importantly, what you have is De Vaca went back to Spain and he wrote an account of his time in Texas and in North America called La Relación. It was a report written for the very powerful King of Spain. And there's an original copy of that, I guess you would call it a book. It's from the 1550s, incredible. So you're reading something that's 400 years old. There's an original, one of the original copies of his report at Texas State, which is just amazes me. Is that I'm very jealous. I wish we had it at UTSA. Texas State actually has a wonderful library. And so what I'm having you do in this week is I'm having you read the words of De Vaca. And I've chosen some excerpts from De Vaca that I put on a Word document. So it says De Vaca excerpt here. And then what you do is you just click on that. It gives you, it turns into a Word document. I want you to open the Word document and I want you to read De Vaca's story or the excerpts of his story. And what you'll read is you'll talk about him landing in Texas, his experience with the Indians in Texas, the indigenous groups in Texas, and his encounters with the Spanish. So you don't read the whole thing, you just read some excerpts. And I just want to start this semester off by having you read the words of a historical figure, a historical character. It's really important for me this semester to present historical evidence to you, just so it's not like I'm just sitting there and you're getting my opinion about whatever. I want to back up you are getting my opinion, but it's an informed opinion and it's backed up by evidence. And I want you, by looking at this excerpt, I want you to see some of the evidence that I'm using in teaching this course. All the important points that I make in this course are backed up by evidence. I think that's very, very important, especially in the era that we live in now, and in which news and which history is so contested. I think we really have to stick close to the evidence or we get in trouble pretty quickly. The next thing here, you'll see the primary analysis worksheet, and you don't have to turn this in. A lot of students think you have to turn this in. What this is, again, it's a Word document. Click on it, it creates a Word document. Why I posted that is it helps guide you to the De Vaca material. If you can answer the questions on the primary analysis worksheet, you'll do well on the quiz next week and on the first midterm. So that's the point of this primary source analysis worksheet. I don't want you to turn it in. You don't have to turn it in. But what it does is it'll help guide you into what I'm looking for in terms of what I think is significant about the De Vaca excerpt. So that's what the primary source analysis worksheet is. It's designed to guide you to what I think is important from the De Vaca excerpt, so you can do well on the quiz next week. If you can answer all the questions on the primary source analysis worksheet, you'll do well on quiz 1 and on the questions I ask about De Vaca in the midterm. The last two items in week 1 module discuss the Texas Indian, two of the significant Texas Indian groups that existed here in the 1520s. Remember, in the 1520s, there's no idea of Texas. There's no imagination of, there's no Texas imaginary. There's no map of Texas. There's no sense of Texas. Texas doesn't exist at all. It's not bordered in the way that we understand it in any way, shape, or form. And you had many, many Indian groups in Texas. Two of the most important are the Caddoan, the Caddo people who lived in the East Texas area. They actually spilled into Louisiana and Arkansas. It was a very large Indian group that was all over the Southeast. And they're the one Indian group that we studied this semester that weren't nomadic. They peaked around 1200 AD, which is about 200 or 300 years before De Vaca ends up on the scene, but they're still here when De Vaca shows up in the 1520s. And I want you to learn about the Caddo, and what you're opening up a link to study the Caddo, and then the Karankawa Indian. This is the Indians that the Indian group, the indigenous group, the native group that De Vaca encounters along the Gulf Coast of Texas in the Galveston area. And so I want you to learn about these two Indian groups that existed in Texas in the 1520s. There were many more Indian groups, but I don't want to overload you with too much information. Now, the last thing I'll say is you might notice I use the word Indian. Actually, Indian is a PC word. It's a word that Indians use themselves. So I'm not being insensitive by saying Indian. It is okay to say Indian. Okay, so that is the podcast discussing how the week one module works. If you have any questions about the module, about the syllabus, about the setup of the course, anything, please email me at patrick.kelly@utsa.edu. And I look forward to meeting some of you over the course of the semester. I really do hope you reach out.